The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
But all I heard was he was going to make me, oh, man, I was crazy, man. I just went nuts. And I did. And I stayed there just 2 months, brother. And right place, right time. Here's the call comes in from Vince McMahon. And all he said was, he called me in for another meeting. He says, Jimmy, he says, well, I'll tell you exactly. I went first. I went to Ganya after I got my when I got the concussion, Mike. I went to Vern Gagne and started working again, and I'd go up there and 400 miles and on a Saturday, and then he would pay me for TV, doing TV, and then I'd work the house show that night and then come back home, and while I was, started working out again, I trimmed down, boy, from that 280. I was like, man, maybe 220, and I was ripped, boy. And he says, hey, we're just opening up Tulsa. And he says, Fritz Von Erich, myself, which was this was Cowboy Bill Watts. And they bought into Leroy McGurk's territory, and he says, we'd like to get you there. And he says, if you go, he says, because I haven't got my break yet. He says, they pay $300 a week, and at that time, a regular job, brother, they were just making $3.08 an hour.
Right.
I mean, so you're bringing home $100 a week. So 300. So I said, oh man, I said, come on, baby, let's go. My family, and I says, it's now or never. And so we went and picked that up. I stayed there 3 months, and then Fritz called me, and how he got me, he says, well, he says, Jimmy, he says, you come, we're gonna make you 400 a week.
Wow. You're gone.
So I'm in Dallas now. Get the kids back in school after 3 months, and rent another place, for a year. And then you got to go, man, because when it's time to go, you just got to get it and go to the next territory. The promoters will say, hey, Mike, he said, hey, you can buy a house in here, this territory, but make sure it's got wheels on it.
Yeah.
Because, man, there's no homesteading. People want to see new faces, every often. Now, they have some mainstays, but they're the big stars. But the underneath guys, until you get your break in that, man, they want to switch them up. So anyway, here Vince called and says that, and here's the exact words. He says, a good friend of mine, Vince McMahon, in New York called, and he says he's looking for a real good-looking young kid. And he says, and Fritz says, man, I thought of you, Jimmy, and he said, be good for you. I said, but Fritz, I just got here, man. I don't know what I'm turning down, man. I honestly don't, man. Going to New York, because I'm still greenish. And he says, he says, you're making $400 here. They're going to give you $500. You're going to make $500 a week there. And he says, go. And I still didn't. I said, man, I just got here, got the kids in school, because we just got done that in Tulsa for 3 months. And I said, man, he said, keep your kids here. You go. And he says, and try it, he says, for a month. And he says, if you don't like it in 1 month, you pick up the phone, leave your family here, let them go to school, finish school, and then in the summer, then they'll come to you and you get set up and you'll be in the territory. And he says, and if, he says, believe me, Jimmy, he said, it's going to be good for you. I said, okay. So they flew me up, and I went in, and the funny part about it was, I thought I was going to go in as a heel because I was a heel there, Oh, and I'm really excited. So I go in the office in Washington D.C. They had an office, and one in New York, and this was Capitol Wrestling then, just WWWF, but they just bought Capitol Wrestling out, and they call it WWWF, and so I says. Vince says, come in, Jimmy. In the main office, the first day I got there, I put my 2 bags down, and I walked in, and he says, you come from a man I admire. He says, and he really, says it's going to be good. And he says, you look good. You remind me of someone who made me a lot of money. Vince is telling me that. And that was Mr. America, Stanley, and another blonde, big kid, and he says, "Here, let me show you where you're who you're gonna be working for the next 3 weeks." And he showed me the whole schedule, and I looked down, and every town, because we work in a different town every night, different state, different, the big time, man. And I looked, and it said Black Demon. I says, Vince, I'm talking to this guy. I just met him, brother, and he's a millionaire and he's the biggest promoter. Oh, and I knew something was, because when I left, everybody congratulating Dusty Rhodes, man, Killer Kowalski, even Johnny Valentine, man, shook my hand. He says, "Man, you're gonna make some money." Oh man, they're going, boy, you're in the right place, right time. And I said, man, it must be something going on here, brother. And so, when I went, but I am telling this best promoter, best territory, best everything in our whole country, and the number 1 territory and best money, everything in here. That I'm wanting to be a heel. Because is this the guy heel? I mean, he's got to be Black Demon, And he said, yeah. And it was Tony. Oh man, Reno. No, I'll have to think. Anyway, Tony.
We'll just call him the Black Demon.
Yeah, the Black Demon, big guy, boy, man. He was a monster. And he says, yeah. He says, there's something wrong with that? And I said, well, geez, I feel more comfortable as I only healed for 2 months, brother. But I'm telling the boss, I feel more comfortable as a heel, man. And I've been baby facing my whole life, until that point. And he looks at me and he says, Jimmy, he says, Tony Marino, Nero, Tony Nero. Check it out. Look it up. The old school. Yeah, the old wrestling fan, and that's who it was, and who I was wrestling all that 3 weeks. And he says, if you get over, and he says, I'm going to help you get over, and he says, in 6 months, son, he says, I will switch you. I'll tell you how this works, Jack. Switch you and make you big money.
Wow.
He's telling me this, and. Man, what are you going to say? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. So I went and did that, and here's how they got me hot. Right off the bat, I mean, within the first month, they gave me win after win on TV, and then all of a sudden they put me and the number 2 guy, the best babyface in New York in 1970, 71 was Chief Jay Strongbow. Mm-hmm. Right next to Bruno. Bruno was the world champion, brother. He was he was right there. He was the top man. So when you do that, you take me, a young kid, just getting going, and I'm with the chief, and we come out as a team, a tag team, and hey, I'm getting all his heat. I'm over like $1 million just because of him, and I haven't done nothing. And I'm just trying to get over. So he really tried to help me. And we did. I got over. And he must have written that down in that book that day. because he had this whole book there. Because exactly 6 months to the day, he switched me heel. And I made for 6 months, y'all, 6 months, I made $500 a week like clockwork. Not a dime off, man. $500 a week.
So let me ask you this. When we've had so many famous wrestlers in like yourself, Vince McMahon, at least was represented, was a man of honor. He always stuck to his word. Is that true?
Oh, brother, hey, anything he tell you, Mike, you take it to the bank. Anything. He said, in 6 months, if you get over it, I'm going to help you. And he did, and I got over. Okay. He says, I'm going to switch you. He switched me on the day, brother. And I went from making $500 that week before. My first check, I went after he switched, and I switched. When he switched me, it was on Strongbow. You know, he learned me the Indian sleeper hole, and I put it on him, and you know, and got on him, and oh man, it was instant heat because he's still the biggest baby face, you know, next to Bruno, and I went from making $500 a week. My next week's check, just because I did that, and we're working shots right away, you know, and me and him against each other, $1,500.
Wow,
$1,500, and brother, and this is like 1970, 71. Man, this was like doctors and lawyers. I didn't even get out of high school, brother. You know me. I didn't take a book home in high school in my life. I played football. I was a jock, man, but I never studied, and they just passed me through it and got it through. But that's how it works anyway. And I was going to tell you real fast. I'm going to go way back one more time, if you don't mind. Here's how hard that I wanted it, or I'm trying to do what my boss says, or I'm trying to do what my mentor says. He says, Vern Gagne and Dick the Bruiser, both of them. Dick, I'm listening to, you know, because I work for him the most. He says, son, you got to gain weight. So, well, I'm a bodybuilder. Now it's the science. Oh man, now they don't eat. Oh man, they got it down, brother. To you know, it's just unreal. You know how they look and how it's all diet.
But